Can you see me way down here? I think that's the biggest dang hole I ever did dig. Let's do another round. It's a little wobbly, you know, it's man-made. What do you want? I'm picking, I'm digging, I'm sweating, I'm grinning. I'm so hot, I almost want to take a dip. Let's just have a peaceful walk back to the pond with our box. Anyone order a box of fresh plants? Fresh out the ground. And now all we have to do is sit and wait and watch this thing evolve. I'll impress you, I bet. I've always wanted to have a pond, and yeah, I guess that's just a theme this year. I'm giving myself everything I've always wanted, just because. Yeah, really up until this point, it's been about planning, collecting the actual resources. I've got enough of a stack, hopefully enough of a stack, of this cool rock that I found. Someone was ripping it out of their yard, and I got a pretty good deal. We've got 10 bags of pond pebbles here. So a lot of this is going to be like on the bottom of the pond and stuff like that. We've got a couple bags of sand here. We've got another 10 bags of pea gravel. This is actually going to play a pretty important role in the pond. This thing is going to come equipped with what's called a bog filter or a wetland filter. And that's kind of what this little divider here is symbolizing. Think of like a shallow thing of water with a bunch of plants growing out of it. I'm actually going to pump water from this section of the pond, from the far end of the pond, over into the bog filter over there. Water's gonna kind of circulate up through the gravel. The plants that are planted in are gonna eat all of the bad stuff that you don't want in the pond. And hopefully it's gonna be sort of, the filter. It's gonna keep this thing nice and clear. I've gone through all of the materials over there. I've showed you the layout. I've showed you the shape of what it's gonna be. I'm talking because now I know the hard part is here. I'm assuming it's gonna be a lot of this, followed by a lot of scooping out the dirt. And this is kind of what I'm working with. I've got a pretty, I don't know, what do you call this? Is it clay? I got so close to pulling the trigger and buying one of those fancy gorilla carts, especially because you can pull it behind the tractor. But I just didn't do it. I couldn't do it this time. So we're back to the old trusty wagon. I'm gonna dig a pond. I'll give you an update when I've actually made some progress that makes me look like I've done some real physical labor today. I'll impress you, I bet. I'll impress you with how far I've gotten next time I show you where we're at. Coming to check out the new wildlife pond I'm making for you. I was really hoping for some turtles, but you'll be just fine. Oh, there you go. Off into the woods. I sent him on his way just so I could get the shot and show you how cool that was. Wasn't it cool? Was it worth it? I think it was worth it. Well, I've got a barrel full of dirt here, so that's a milestone. I'm not going to show you the actual pond yet because, I don't know, it's not impressive enough. But I figured we could go on a walk together and haul our dirt. Ugh. Jeez. Beep, 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 beep. Oh, got my garage. I thought this dump would be a lot more graceful. Whoops. Sorry about that. Scraping some dirt into the hole. And then, picking it up. Sometimes you run into a root like this. That's okay. You just give it a little tug. So it's kind of like peeling little layers off of the onion. One little thin scrape at a time here. You can always tell when you've got a decent amount of work done because your brow will begin to get wet. Let's go take a drink of water. And then, to be honest with you, I'm gonna get back to work. I'm gonna keep digging. Oh yeah. If you notice the water spilling down my chin, that's not just because I'm lazy. I'm doing that on purpose. Can you see me way down here? All right, let's see how fast Let's see how fast the pickaxe, the pick and dig method over the scrape and dig method works. Looks like we got us another root in the way. And now that I've got all this picked out, all that's left to do is dig it back into the bucket. I think you probably get the point, right? I'm picking, I'm digging, I'm sweating, I'm grinning. Let's get this out of here. We've got the basic shape done here. And now all that's left to do is go down. Update for the bog filter side here. I'm still not exactly sure what I'm going to do with all this. That's why I'm kind of not touching this land. Once I actually get the rest of the structure dug out, I kind of feel like that side will start speaking to me, and I'll figure out how to actually place that bog filter in properly. But for right now, I'm just kind of ignoring it. I'm sure you've seen just about enough of me on digging out this hole for now, but I've got to have some sort of footage for day one, and day one is digging out the hole for the wildlife pond. So let's do another round. I'm officially removing the rope. It's monumental. Have I mentioned how picking and digging makes you feel like a pond master lumberjack? This is what gives me joy as I'm out here building the wildlife pond. I'm breaking my back digging a hole. Let me set you up real nice so you can just hear this perfectly. You hear that dirt smashing against that empty plastic wagon? Oh yeah. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like progress. Get you in place. Right. Well, I'll have to fix that. Right where I'm standing in this hole, we're going to go down a little bit further even, but there's going to be a pump in there, and it's going to pump the water right into the bottom of this little bog filter area. And like I said, it's going to be full of gravel. It's going to pump that water slowly up full of gravel, and little bacterias and plants will eat all the bad things that are cycling around in the pond. So I'm going to start back in this hole again, and the plan now is to come back up here. And I think what I'm going to do is sort of just a nice gentle slope. I'm not going to do any sort of a time lapse or any sort of B-roll digging shots. I think we've got enough of those for day one to last. So I'll get back with you when I've actually got the rest of this dug out. Does it look impressive? Please at least just tell me it looks impressive. That's a lot of work. This is going to be the hardest part of digging your pond. Do you know what? I'm glad I did it manually. I wanted to do this first one. If I ever was to build a pond again, yeah, of course I would probably get some sort of a machine digger type thing, especially if I'm going to go deeper or bigger than this. But you know what? When you're doing something for the first time, sometimes it pays off just to do the hard work, to do the manual labor, to get you a shovel, and to just spend some time getting to know what you're actually doing. Imagine you're a fish swimming around, or a turtle perhaps. Oh, enjoying the deepest end of the pond, I see. Maybe you'll come up here for a little bask. I need to dig one last hole about the size of this box so that this can kind of sit in flush at the very bottom. So right down here is where we're going to do it. Let's dig that final hole. All right, perfect. I'm going to have to clean out all of these little roots and everything like that. That's all poking out of the side here. So there's a little bit more detail work still to do in this pond. And again, all of that is just to prevent anything from puncturing the pond liner, which is what's going to hold the water in this thing. I think that's the biggest dang hole I ever did dig, if I do say so myself. Well, hello! It's day 2. I'm chock full of energy. I'm not hallucinating in the woods anymore after digging that this monstrous hole behind me. First thing we're going to do is we're going to lay a pond liner on that, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Today's going to be all about design. Today's going to be the day when we get the water in this thing, when we start laying the rocks all over the edges. I think the old wagons had it. Can you see her down here? This wheel right in here. She's bent pretty good. Let's just have a peaceful walk back to the pond with our box. Don't worry, I'll get rolling. It just usually takes me a minute to get all the juices flowing in my brain. This is going to be our pump. We'll get into that in a minute. This is just some tubing. This is half-inch flexible black tubing. This is what we're going to use in just a second here. That's our pond liner. This right here is basically just a heavy piece of plastic that's going to lay down in here. And I've never actually worked with a pond liner before, but I hope it sort of just molds around all of the ridges and things like that. And next, we've basically just got a bin of plumbing parts. First step, get that liner in, but there's actually one more thing that we have to do before that, and that is, I'm going to show you right over here, sand. What's the sand for, you ask? Well, the sand is the one thing that goes in the pond before the liner, and the reason for that, see, it's a little wobbly, you know, it's man-made. What do you want? I was working with a shovel and a pickaxe, for God's sakes. It's not like I can, you know, make it perfect, but I don't need to make it perfect, because this sand is going to do the job of sort of leveling out that bottom, and it just kind of gives the liner just a nice little even place to sit on. It's one of those extra things that I read you're supposed to do, so I'm going to do it. Was that a good shot? I want to make sure I get a shot. I'm not going to do a time lapse or anything with this sand pouring, but I did want to kind of show you, you know, the general concept of me pouring sand in the bottom of this thing. I'll just kind of stamp it in, even it out. I'm not a huge fan of getting, whoa. I'm not a huge fan of getting sandy fingers. I actually got all this stuff on Amazon, so I'll probably put a link to to all these different products that I used in the description. You know, so if you're building your own pond, maybe you can check out the equipment that I got and at least let that sort of inspire the direction to where you're going to get. I know that's always the hardest part, is like just having a list of like, what do I need to accomplish this project? It smells like tortilla chips from a Mexican restaurant, strangely enough. Oh, and one thing, I think I mentioned it yesterday, but this is a 10 by 13 liner, and I'm covering my pond I actually built to 6 foot by 9 foot. So, you know, keep in mind we're gonna have to shove this liner down into the pond, so you want your pond to be smaller than the liner. Do I just like jump into the middle of it and sink it down into the bottom of the pond? Let's wiggle our way to the edge and see if we can just start kind of pushing it down in there. The delicate touch that every pond master learns to acquire as they lay more and more liners in their ponds. After you work it a while, it eventually just starts going in there. It's kind of just a process of, you know, to be honest with you, building up your confidence of being able to step around in there and hopefully not getting too confident where you put a hole in it. So I've got all this bunchy stuff right here. I don't really know what to do with that, so I'm just sort of folding it over and hoping for the best on that one. There we go. I'm gonna lay some pebbles down in the bottom of here. And again, just sort of, you know, filling more of the surface area with weight so that it starts to kind of pull everything in. I'm going from the lowest point. And the lowest point in this pond is where this filter box down here is going to be. And I'm just making sure to weight the pond liner down from the deepest points upwards. It's coming along pretty good. The liner fits good. Everything's working out. Next step is actually going to be to start plumbing the manifold that's going to shoot the water into that bog filter over there. So I'll see you when we're ready for that. It's a tube that's going to have a bunch of holes drilled in it so that the water kind of disperses through our bog filter properly. But I call it a manifold. I think you can call it all sorts of things. In fact, you can call it whatever you want. Now the first thing we're going to do, is not forget our Sharpie marker. So always have a good Sharpie marker with you. And the second thing we're going to do is we're going to measure our tube here. Maybe we'll cut right about here. We're almost at the whole length. Okay, so here's what we're working with as far as our plumbing goes. Again, this is going to be the part that has holes drilled all in the top here, and this is where the water is going to disperse into the bog filter over there. Then it comes up to this area right here. Now this is specifically in here. If you see right here, this is just basically a little hole in the side of the plumbing here. And this is going to sit above the water line. That way, if the pump that's down over there, if it ever turns off, the water won't continue to siphon. They call it a back siphon, but it won't continue to siphon from the bog filter back into the pond. Then we've got our piece where we're actually going to connect the flexible tubing here and make all of this work from the pump over there. So, speaking of the pump, again, I'm going to have all the links in the description for all the equipment that I got, but this is a 550 gallon per hour pump, which I thought was pretty good. I thought was pretty good size for the size of my pond. So now we've got everything down in place. Throw our little balls back in there. And there's sort of another rough-in of how the manifold and the plumbing is going to work. Now, before we forget, I have to actually drill all of the holes. I'm going to drill holes just every few inches or so. There's no really rhyme or reason, just a bunch of holes in that tube so that it can kind of disperse the water up through it rather than all going through one single point. Ooh-wee! Smells like nail polish remover. I mean, it's one of those smells that you like but don't like at the same time, you know? Anyways, clean all this out. The basic gist is rub it around. And then rub it on this one. And then this will seal. This will seal the two of these together for life. I don't know, it does some special chemical stuff where it like melts the plastics into each other. I'm actually gonna leave this part uncemented just because once I fit this in, the water is gonna be going downwards through this, so I don't think it's really important to have that sealed up. And I wanna be able to change the angle. So that one's pond pebbles. Now we're gonna fill the rest of that bog filter up with these pea pebbles, right after I give them a rinse, of course. I think we're going to move on to the stage I've been looking forward to all morning, and that's the stage where we get to deal with this stuff. So I want to just start putting, kind of covering the bottom, maybe building up the sides. Let's just start bringing this pond to life. It's the most organic part. It's the most, non-permanent part as well. All of these stones can change. It's just going to kind of be a matter of, listening to the pond, to be honest with you. Since this piece of the ground right here is going to be, it's a little higher than on the other side of the pond, I think what I'm going to do is have kind of a rock wall, going out. A really satisfying way of doing art, let's put it that way. Because, I don't know, you're just kind of taking whatever's thrown at you and finding a place to fit it in. It doesn't have to be any certain place. There's not one way or another that'll, this is the wrong way, that's the right way. It just kind of is what it is. Let's just toss that bad boy in there. Follow it back up to where it began. And get her filling up. All right, my friends, this is the moment. It's going to be a long moment because it's going to take a while for this thing to fill up. I'm going to think of what to do next. I guess now would be a good time to plug the tube into the barb there. So all we're going to do, we're just going to cut this down to size with a pair of regular scissors to make that snip. Well, it's about as easy as that. But I finally got it in. Got a good view of that. Finally got it in. Now let's get this pipe back in place here. See, it's a good thing I didn't cement this. I should at least hear something when I plug these in. Oh, I hear it. Can you hear it? In the meantime, I'm gonna start putting some rocks on the edge of this thing. And you know, when the water starts flowing, I'll be sure to let you know. Still got that section, basically that side of the pond I was saving for you. I basically got to get the rest of that stone around that pond. All right, we're down to the last few pieces here. Just getting them all in place. Eventually, you know, the earth will start to take over. Dirt will build up in this. Whatever decides to make a home in this thing will start to kind of form it the way it needs it. And you know, before we know it, this is going to be as if Mother Nature built it herself. Technically she did. I'm just kind of giving her a hand with the assembly. Any forest inhabitants out there? Does the pond look inviting to you? It looks inviting to me. I'm so hot, I almost want to take a dip. Pretty much had the perfect amount of supplies. I've got 2 bags of sand left, so I only ended up using 4 of those, but I used 10 bags of the pond pebbles, those are gone. 10 bags of the pea gravel, those are gone. And it was almost 1,000 pounds of that, whatever that rock right there is. I want to thank you for your service, Red Radio Flyer. But now get out of here. You're ruining the beautiful view of my new pond. Now, onto our final tool, the blade. What this blade is going to do is this pond liner actually cuts like so surprisingly easily that now I understand why everyone's so scared about ripping a hole in this stuff when they're installing it. Not much to it, but I'll give you one more shot. Basically, you know, we have our pond semi-complete, constructed, we'll put it that way. Got our bog filter right there on the side. No plants in it yet. The rest of the pond, deepest side, again, the pump's coming from down in here, so all the water's going from here, flowing over to there, up through our bog, and then back into the pond. Let's close our eyes together. Let's think of somewhere more boggy. Think of somewhere more boggy, murky, planty. Whoa! Where am I? How'd I get this backpack on? Ralphie? How are you with me? I didn't bring you to build a pond. It looks like I'm in some sort of a bog. I mean, while we're here, we do need some plants for our bog. Those guys right there are looking good to me. Thank you. I'll put your spawn into good use. Are you ready? Are you ready? Wake up! Look, we've got some new friends, some new bog plants planted in the bog. I want to do one more step. Remember all that dirt that we took out? How about an up-close shovel shot? And then when I get back to the pond, we'll do a, me throwing it down around. Maybe I'll grab the camera again, pat the dirt a little bit, make it feel good. See this little gold mine I discovered right beside this log here? The soil's been like petrifying, it's full of worms. It's been like soaking up the juices of this log for, I don't know, probably years now at this point. So that's what I'm currently working on. Got things kind of crunched up. Everything's looking good. I've actually got some plants up the way over there that I can use to transplant. I think they call this stuff monkey grass. And it's just kind of going like crazy over here. And then I'm gonna take a bunch of these guys too. Just because don't they kind of look like they belong at a pond? Anyone order a box of fresh plants? Fresh out the ground. Ready to go beside the pond here. I think this grass fits in just nicely here. It's kind of like it's always been here. So I planted all that stuff over there. Got a couple little pieces of grass over here. A little bit more on the corner over there. And then, you know, we'll save the rest of this available space for, I don't know, something else. I actually love how it's a little bit uneven, and you kind of get surprised by the larger wall on this side. You have to kind of come around the back here to see it. Now, if you're not tired of me yet, we've got just one thing left to do. One thing, one special little plant to harvest that I love. Oh yeah. That's actually coming off quite nice. Oh, I think a frog over there agrees with me. How about right in here for this one? Some dirt under there maybe. Give you a nice little bed to sit down on. In fact, why don't we put another piece of moss right in there too? Moss patch number 1. Moss patch number 2. We'll see how you grow. When the rainbows are flowing, let them flow. I think that's going to do it. We've got everything planted. We've got our bog filter working. The pond's still a little bit murky, but that'll get better. We've got our dirt kind of pushed up into the edges. Got everything incorporated back into nature like it should be. And now all we have to do is sit and wait and watch this thing evolve. So as a first-time pond builder and now, you know, a certified pond master, I hope I at least inspired you, or at least showed you that someone with no experience can definitely do something like this. It takes a little bit of extra work, but the extra work is going to be worth it when you're looking at that wildlife pond behind you. Now I just can't wait to see what moves in. I can't wait to see what this thing brings in the future. I can't wait to see how it grows, how it changes. I can't even wait for the little problems that it's going to give me, because it'll just give me something to solve, give me a little bit more education, a little bit more understanding about how nature works, how this sort of thing works. And I'm just really excited for it all. And there's the brand new wildlife pond, as if she always existed here in the corner beside the big fallen log. Should I go down low? I kind of think it's cool when I do these low shots. Maybe we'll do the back like this. Let's get a little peek over the grass at our stone wall I'm very proud of over there. I did a pretty decent job of covering all of the liner. I still see a little bit right there, but it'll be fine. Let's have a seat. Let's have a seat right next to the pond. You can just barely hear the water gurgling over there in the bog filter.